Sí. Ahora sí vamos a ver a Maria Giddy. Pues ella, para Gabriel, ella probablemente sepa algo de los... Pudo haber sido testigo del último asesinato. Se ve bien chida la mansión sota.
May I help you?
The Garden District is famous for its elaborate old plantation homes and mansions. This particular mansion is impeccably groomed. The man looks intellectual, polished, and impervious. He gazes at Gabriel with a superior eye. Gabriel wonders if he's Malia's secretary, bodyguard, butler, or something more personal.
Muchas boberías que le podemos decir, pero la verdad en esta ocasión no vale la pena usar ninguna más que la importante.
I'd like to see Malia Giddy, please.
I'm sorry, but unless you have an appointment or official business, I cannot announce you.
Le podemos decir que vendemos enciclopedias, revista, la plata. Pero bueno, como ya tenemos la placa de molde, digamos
I
que
do
son
have
los
official business.
Really? Please tell me the nature of your business.
I'd really like to see Malia Giddy.
I told you that unless you have official business with Ms. Getty, I cannot let you in.
Salimos y usamos la placa.
My name is Detective Mosley. I'm here on police business.
Really? How interesting. Wait here. I'll inform Ms. Getty. Ms. Getty will see you. Right this way. Ms. Getty will be down shortly.
Thank you.
What can I do for you, Detective?
Primero vamos a echar un ojo.
Beautiful women. They must be relatives.
They are.
The only thing Gabriel wants to mess around with in this room is Malia herself.
Ese es un detalle curioso. Este cuadrito que está hasta acá es la imagen que se usó en la versión original de Gabriel Knight para Malia, que eran imágenes de 16 bits. Es esta, me acuerdo muy bien.
Beautiful women. They must be relatives.
They are.
Modern art?
More or less. It's a Picasso.
Harvard classics. Homer, Virgil. Maybe Malia wouldn't be impressed by a signed copy of one of Gabriel's novels.
podemos apreciar que es bastante culta, además de rica, obviamente.
The side table probably costs more than Gabriel's shop. Ming Dynasty, perhaps? The only thing Gabriel's likely to burn here is his bridges.
Bueno, platiquemos con ella. Bueno, primero echarle el ojo.
Undoubtedly proof that there is a God.
Sin duda que Dios existe. El brother.
Gabriel is trying to impress the girl, not make her gag.
I'm trying
Trying what?
to reach the truth.
A veces como que Gabriel nos habla, o sea, le habla al jugador. Cuando nosotros le piqué ahorita al agarrarla, pues me contesta, lo estoy intentando. Ok, ya platiquemos.
Mind if I ask you a few questions, Miss Kitty?
I assume that's what you're here for, Detective.
Me gusta más esta versión de Mario. La original, la que les comentaba, la verdad sí se veía como que muy roca, muy desgastada. Esta se ve más sexy. Preguntemos.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
Voodoo? Why would you want to know about that, Detective? It's rather silly, isn't it?
There's nothing silly about the voodoo murders.
But that voodoo is faked. That's what I've read in the papers.
That's what the papers say, all right.
But you're not convinced.
No, frankly, I'm not. The police department isn't known for its imagination.
Oh? Well, I can see that your imagination is considerable.
Are you sure you can't tell me anything about voodoo?
I really don't know much about it. Isn't there some place in town that you can find out about that sort of thing? A museum or something?
I believe there is a museum.
Then maybe you should check there.
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
The murders? Only what I read in the papers.
And what do you read in the papers?
I'm sure you know much more about it than I, Detective.
Tell me about your life in New Orleans.
The Getty family came to New Orleans in 1800. We worked very hard to get where we are. On the other hand, we've done a lot for this community.
I can believe that. You're doing a lot for me right now. Tell me more about New Orleans.
I'm afraid I don't get out into New Orleans society much. Because of the Getty money, we have slots in the best country clubs and on the best Mardi Gras courts. But I must admit I hate it. I avoid actually making an appearance unless it becomes absolutely necessary.
I know about those courts. They're very exclusive.
Yes, especially when it comes to people of my race. That's why we don't turn down the appointments. It's a rare opportunity to rub their noses in it. But that's not where I spend my time. I have more important things to do with my life.
That's admirable. Many women would love the chance to get caught up in that kind of life.
I'm not any kind of woman you might be familiar with.
Yes, I can see that. Do you know anything about snakes?
I'm no expert. I don't fear them like most people do.
Tell me about yourself.
I suppose I don't really have a choice. What do you want to know, Detective?
What kind of things interest you?
I don't have a lot of free time, but I do appreciate the arts. Opera, symphony, ballet, fine art. If you look around, you'll see that we collect African art, for example.
Yes, it's very beautiful.
It is, Detective. It means a great deal to me.
Do you have a career?
A career? Being the head of the Getty family is a 24-hour-a-day job. We have many holdings and many responsibilities, financial and otherwise. The management of our business affairs and properties leaves me with time for little else.
Poor little rich girl?
Believe it or not, Detective, wealth does have its price.
Tell me about your family.
The Gettys? We're a very private family.
How many people are there in your family?
Well, My mother just passed away.
Oh, I am sorry.
So am I. She was a magnificent woman. We were very close. I was an only child.
And your father?
I never knew him.
It's hard to believe that any man would leave a woman like you, or like your mother must have been.
He did not leave, Detective. But that's really none of your concern.
I'm sorry. Go on.
There are, of course, other Gettys in the city. I have a large extended family.
I see. Do you have a husband, boyfriend?
I'm very independent, Detective. The women in my family have always preferred it that way.
So you've never been married?
No, and I never will be.
What about children?
Yes, that is likely. Someday.
I'd like to hear just about anything.
I have a business degree from Vanderbilt. I wanted to study psychology, but my family's interests came first.
Oh, why not something like law, then? Surely that would have been an asset to the family.
Law? Please. I do have some morals, Detective.
I'd like to hear just about anything.
For the record, I'm 28, Detective.
Tá, tchau.
I'd like to hear just about anything.
I have few friends. A woman in my position can't really afford them.
I'd like to hear just about anything.
I try to stay away from the media as much as possible. Last year there was that story about John Jr. and I. Phone didn't stop ringing for weeks. I prefer to keep my private life private. I would appreciate it if you'd keep my name away from any public association with the police, Detective.
Of course.
Hizo referencia a John Kennedy Jr., el hijo del expresidente de Estados Unidos, que para la época de donde supuestamente está esta historia, pues estaba todavía vivo, porque lamentablemente el hijo falleció también a finales de los 90.
I wouldn't know where to begin.
As you wish, Detective.
Can you tell me anything about what happened out at the lake?
I wish I could. But I've never seen or heard anything unusual at the lake. And I do spend quite a bit of time out there.
Coquetear con ella. Bueno, dejémoslo al final eso.
This is quite a place.
Thank you. It's been in the family a long time.
Done anything exciting lately?
I'm sorry, but I'm very busy. Can we get to the point?
So what's new with you?
Nothing that would interest you, I'm sure, Detective.
Do you receive all your visitors in this library?
Usually. I feel more comfortable surrounded by things that I love.
So, you like books?
My books, my art. Yes.
You know, we have a lot more in common than you might imagine.
I would love to chat about that sometime, Detective. But I'm really pressed at the moment.
Excuse me, but your eyes are really distracting. I don't think I've ever seen a color quite like that brownish gold. It's so deep and rich. Man, if I could bottle that, I'd make a fortune.
Thank you, Detective. That's an interesting observation, though probably not relevant to your case.
A good detective never knows what might be relevant, Miss Getty.
Then you must be truly exceptional at your job.
I can't help noticing that you're in incredible shape, Miss Getty. Your legs are so strong. Do you work out at one of the clubs by the lake?
Well, Detective, I do enjoy physical activity.
Oh, me too.
Actually, I was referring to swimming and modern dance. I can't say that I do much exercising at the lake, though.
Ah, well, it was worth asking.
I think this has gone on long enough. You're not really a detective, are you?
Who, me? Well, I am on this case, Miss Getty.
I saw you at the lake yesterday. I thought you must be with the police since you were there, but you don't act like a police officer. Besides, I'm rather certain that the other man said his name was Mosley.
All right, you caught me. I'm not with the police. My name is Gabriel Knight. I'm a writer working with Detective Mosley on a book.
Well, Mr. Knight, now that we've established who you are, perhaps you can tell me the real reason you're here.
Well, I am researching the book, and I thought you might have seen or heard something at the lake.
I don't like liars, Mr. Knight.
Okay, you're right. I really just wanted to see you again. You can be mad at me if you want, but I swear I've never done anything like this before.
Mr. Knight, you've lied about your identity and wasted my time with meaningless questions. If it weren't vaguely flattering, I'd really be angry. You're lucky I don't call the real police. I think you should go, Mr. Knight.
Malia, wait. If you just give me a chance.
I've wasted enough time. I'll have Robert show you out.
Se le cebó el teatrito.
Show Mr. Knight out, please.
I most certainly will.
Thank you very much. I had a lovely time. Ah, shit.
Bueno, no funcionó. Bueno, ahora dejámonos al Museo de Vudú, ya que ahora hoy sí está abierto.
Welcome, my friend. Hello. I am the proprietor, Dr. John. If you have any questions, I will be happy to assist.
Great. My name is Knight, and I'll probably take you up on that.
Hablemos con el Dr. Jones.
Dr. John is a huge man. If his manner weren't so pleasant, he'd be intimidating. Given the man's size, that doesn't seem advisable.
Could I ask you a few questions?
That is why I am here.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
Historical voodoo, or the voodoo currently practiced in the city.
Vaya, por fin alguien sí nos va a resolver las dudas de vudú.
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
The killings in the newspaper. I know they have nothing to do with true voodoo in New Orleans.
What makes you think the voodoo murders aren't being done by local practitioners?
Voodoo is a popular boogeyman, Mr. Knight, especially in New Orleans. Anyone can pretend to use it, just as anyone can pretend to be a black belt in karate. And for the same reason, to intimidate. I know voodoo in this city, Mr. Knight, and believe me, it is not about killing. Even the police have stated that the killings have nothing to do with local voodoo.
Con el Dr. John tenemos ya 4 fuentes de información que dicen que los asesinatos vudú usan vudú ficticio.
So you know nothing about the voodoo murders?
I neither know nor care to know, Mr. Knight. My only possible interest is in how it might affect the public's attitude towards the museum. So far, it has not been an issue. No one has even had the bad taste to bring it up. Until you, that is.
What do you think of New Orleans?
It is the only city in the United States, as far as I am concerned.
What is it about New Orleans that you so admire?
It has a real culture of its own, Mr. Knight. Amid the horrid blandness that is Americana, New Orleans alone has a voice.
Spoken like a true New Orleanian. Do you know anything about snakes?
You have perhaps noticed the museum snake, Mr. Knight? They are beautiful creatures. Do you not agree? and the tourists seem to associate them with voodoo.
Is this snake yours? Do you use it in your practice of
I
voodoo?
admire the spirit of the snake, Mr. Knight. But snakes, like the museums, can be quite dangerous to handle.
You didn't really answer my question.
I think I did, Mr. Knight.
Tell me about yourself.
Me?
Yes, if you don't mind.
What is it you wish to learn?
Why did you open a voodoo museum?
The subject has fascinated me all my life, and I wanted to help preserve the cultural heritage it represents.
What kind of background in voodoo do you have?
Let us just say I cut my teeth on it, Mr. Knight. It is in my blood.
Do you do anything besides run the museum?
No, the museum does not make me a rich man, but my material needs are simple. I prefer to focus on my one true interest in life.
What are your own religious beliefs?
My beliefs are too personal and too complex to discuss with a layman, Mr. Knight.
Profano.
Do you know Malia Getty?
Should I?
She referred me to your museum.
Many have read about our museum in the newspapers, Mr. Knight.
That's a good point. Just tell me anything.
I am originally from the West Indies myself, you know.
Really? What brought you to New Orleans?
I was drawn here for personal reasons.
Just tell me anything.
I am a vegetarian.
Really? I can't imagine living without meat.
That must be the hunter in you, Mr. Knight.
Just tell me anything.
I am not an easy person to get to know. I am a very private man.
Isn't that unusual for someone in the museum business?
Not at all. My displays speak for me.
Just tell me anything.
Not everyone can come see the museum, so I occasionally do public speaking on the subject of historical voodoo.
Anything coming up that I might attend?
No. But then you have me all to yourself right now, do you not?
Actually, I can't think of a thing.
Then let us discuss something else.
Ahora sí, aprendamos de vudú histórico.
Tell me about historical
Very well. I will start at the beginning, Mr. Knight, and will go on from there at your prompting.
Sounds good.
As you may know, voodoo is a grassroots religion, formed by the mixing together of many different African tribal religions and Anglo religions, such as Catholicism or Protestantism. In other words, it is a religion born of the African slave trade. But African slaves were imported not only by the United States, but also into the West Indies, where the French and Spanish ran plantation islands. Prior to 1803, the New Orleans area was owned by France. The French Creole in those days owned many African slaves. But the Creole did not permit their slaves to gather, giving no chance for voodoo to breed here natively. The Creole also knew enough about the corrupted pagan practices of the West Indies slaves to ban the importings of slaves from that region.
So how did voodoo come to New Orleans?
After the Louisiana Purchase, American legislators relaxed regulations. Slaves were permitted to gather. The Americans also removed the ban on West Indies slaves. Around the same time, a slave revolt occurred in Santo Domingo, what is now Haiti. Between the lifting of the ban and the Haitian Revolt, West Indies slaves began pouring into New Orleans. Some of them were free people of color, freed or escaped slaves. Some came with their white owners who were fleeing from the revolt.
And what happened when the West Indies slaves got here?
They brought voodoo with them. The native slaves were more than enthusiastic about embracing it. It gave them power, Mr. Knight. If only in the form of a communal band. Among the first meeting places were the Bayou St. John and the shore of Lake Pontchartrain. The early voodoos were heavy snake worshippers, worshipping the one they called the Great Zombie.
Tell me more about historical voodoo.
By 1817, the voodoo activities were beginning to cause fear among the white slave owners. An ordinance was passed to forbid slave gatherings except in designated public areas at designated time. The time was Sunday afternoons, and the place, Congo Square. The slaves and free people of color gathered to dance simulations of their voodoo dances, right in sight of Creole society. Of course, they also continued to meet in private for the real thing.
Tell me more about historical voodoo.
There were a variety of kings and queens at first, voodoo priests and priestesses. But from about 1830, a single power emerged. This was a voodoo queen named Marie Laveau. Marie Laveau ruled voodoo in New Orleans for many years.
Are you sure you can't tell me anything about voodoo?
I've given you as much detail as I can, Mr. Knight. Look around the museum if you desire more information.
Tell me about current voodoo.
Many people think of voodoo in terms of magic spells or gree-gree. That kind of practice is actually called hoodoo and is only a part of true voodoo. Voodoo, the religion, has a strong following in New Orleans. In fact, it is growing quite rapid. There are several voodoo churches or temples in the city, and others all across the United States. African Americans see it as a tradition all their own. Whites, and there are many in the religion, are attracted to it because they think it is exotic. I personally am more interested in the history of voodoo. Some of the new movements are copying Haitian or even African voodoo, but it is the voodoo of New Orleans that I find so intriguing.
Bueno, acabamos de recibir una historia bastante acertada del vudú, y esto es porque la escritora de la historia de Gabriel Knight realmente se documentó con hechos verídicos o estudiados del vudú. Así que lo que acabamos de leer, escuchar, es bastante acertado como dato cultural más que nada, no a manera de creencia. Yo la verdad no creo en el vudú, pero no deja de ser un dato histórico, cultural. Ahora preguntemos sobre Marie Laveau, que de hecho fue también una persona real.
Tell me about Marie
There
Laveau.
were actually two Marie Laveaux, mother and daughter. Most people thought they were the same woman. Her continued youth added to the mystique. The original, the mother, was also known as Widow Paris. It was she that began the empire.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
The Laveau tomb, where one or both of the Maries are believed to be buried, is in St. Louis Cemetery No. 1. It is a popular shrine for practitioners and tourists alike. I myself take tours through the cemetery on a regular basis.
Really? Do you have any running this week?
No, but the cemetery is open to the general public as well.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
When the widow Paris began to practice, there were many voodooians in the city. By 1830, she was voodoo queen of all New Orleans. The widow Paris was a hairdresser for rich Creole ladies. She also paid household servants to spy for her. Between the two, she knew everything about everyone who mattered in New Orleans. She was not above using her information to appear psychic, to intimidate, or even to blackmail.
You sound as though you admire her.
For a black woman in the mid-1800s to gain power is an incredible thing, Mr. Knight. However she achieved it.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
She kept a pet snake, danced with it too. She held traditional voodoo ceremonies out by the lake. She took herself seriously, very seriously. But she was not above selling tickets for her events to curiosity seekers. She was not above using voodoo any way she could to make money. that is for certain. But if she had been in another line of work, in another age, that would have been interpreted as entrepreneurial genius, rather than a sign of fraudulence.
Hey, you don't need to convince me. I admire anyone that can actually make a living. Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
It was Marie Laveau who defined the voodoo that is truly and uniquely the voodoo of New Orleans. She invented hundreds, if not thousands, of spells, potions, charms, and incantations. These form the basis of the modern practice, not to mention the folk tradition of hoodoo.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
Her daughter, Marie Glapion, took over when Widow Paris got old. Most people thought it was the same Marie Laveau. Both Maries encouraged that point of view. The Widow Paris died in 1881. Marie Glapion had been reigning a long time by then. After the death of the Widow Paris, other voodoo queens surfaced, and by 1890, the cult was fragmented again. Marie Glapion just sort of faded away.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
You have heard everything about Marie Laveau that a layman might expect to understand.
What exactly is hoodoo?
Hoodoo refers to magic folk traditions of the South. Hoodoo is a bastard of voodoo. Many of the Gris-Gris are similar, but hoodoo does not have the religious aspects of voodoo.
So how's the museum business?
Those who truly seek to understand are few, Mr. Knight. But even one can be an audience.
Sounds about like my shop. So where do you pick up all this stuff?
Oh, here and there. We accept donations of any pertinent items.
Do you ever get any wackos in here?
You mean, besides yourself?
Yeah, besides me.
I do not care to make those kinds of judgments, Mr. Knight. All are welcome here.
You're a big guy, aren't you? You work out, play sports?
I do not play basketball, if that is what you want to know.
Who, me? No, you just look like such a natural athlete.
I do find ways of keeping fit, Mr. Knight. After all, our bodies are temples.
You sound like Grace. I should get the two of you together.
Is Grace your wife?
No, she just acts like it.
Actúa como la esposa.
So what do you think of our summer weather? Have you ever seen it so overcast or so muggy?
It is unpleasant. The heavens are not pleased these days.
Nice outfit.
I prefer simple cotton to dead flesh, Mr. Knight.
I'll have to remember that. This is quite a place you have here.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. I have dedicated myself to the preservation of this unique culture. It is gratifying to see others reap the fruits I have sown.
Bueno, y nuestra clase de vudú con el Dr. Jones ha acabado. Ahora echemos un vistazo al museo.
A very large, very formidable looking snake is secured in a plexiglass cage.
The python is quite dangerous. I would stay back if I were you.
Thanks for the advice.
The back wall displays various voodoo items, such as offerings of fruits to the voodoo deities. Large, elaborate drums occupy a corner of the museum.
Please, do not touch the drums. They are authentic.
Authentic what?
Drums. Do not touch them.
An authentic-looking pole marks the center of the room. Authentic what? Gabriel isn't sure. An official voodoo wishing stump. Rub it and make a wish, a card says.
Funny, I say the same thing to women.
Este vato, frótalo y pide un deseo. Yo le digo lo mismo a las mujeres.
I wish Malia Getty were mine forever. Really, I mean it.
What was that?
Huh? Nothing.
Bueno, ya pidió su deseo.
A striking portrait of a turbaned woman is on the back wall. Gabriel wonders who she might be.
Bueno, la pintura que está aquí es de Marie Laveau, la que el Dr. John nos comentó que fue una reina vudú en Nueva Orleans. Digamos que como la pionera del vudú en Nueva Orleans. Por eso es respetada por los vuduenses.
Something about the shape of that knife gives Gabriel the creeps. The back wall displays various voodoo items, such as an African statue laden with decorations.
Now, why does that remind me of Grace?
The back wall displays various voodoo items, such as bottles of liquor and wine. Flickering candles lend an appropriately spooky atmosphere to the museum.
Reminds me of a book critic for the New York Times.
The voodoo shrine is filled with items that both fascinate Gabriel and also make his skin crawl.
Aquí bastante parafernalia vudú.
A waste of some perfectly good wine, if you ask me. This coffin is so small. They lend a certain psychotic ambiance, no? Will that look sacrilegious? Wonder who that poor bastard was. It wouldn't be much of a voodoo museum without a voodoo doll.
Es correcto. El clásico muñeco vudú.
Magenta Moonbeam. Voodoo Inn.
A flyer advertising Magenta Moonbeam, a local voodoo inn. Her parlor is on the corner of Orleans and Dauphine. A leather whip hangs from a peg on the wall.
Oh, hurt me.
Bueno, ya revisamos todo, es hora de...
Goodbye, Dr. John.
Goodbye, Mr. Knight.